after what they just released is happening now after the protests. Liberals just never seem to learn. If you take on President Trump and the American people, you will crash and burn. NFL ticket prices have plummeted by a percentage never seen before following the outcry over the national anthem protests by the spoiled rich ball tossers. An analysis by CNBC found that ticket prices during the first 3 games of the 2017 season enjoyed a 20–40% increase over last year, but then skidded in Week 4 and actually dropped by 2% in Week 5. The timing coincides perfectly with the uproar following President Trump's criticism of the protests on September 22, which prompted nearly 200 players to sit or take a knee during the national anthem in the September 24 to 25 games in Week 3. Sadly, this is what happens to a sports organization when it decides to get political and to go against American values and morals. The NFL should have stepped in and told failed 49er quarterback Colin Kaepernick to knock it off when he started kneeling as he was switched from starting quarterback to backup because he just isn't that good, and all of this would have never happened. But now the NFL is starting to see its demise. The Rush Limbaugh Show reports. Soros behind NFL protests. October 6, 2017. Rush, try this headline from the Washington Times. NFL Players Union teamed up with Soros to fund leftist advocacy groups. Folks, do not ever doubt me. When this whole protest the anthem thing began, I told you that left-wing activist groups were behind it, that they were running the players on this. It was how you get the players to take action that is actually harming the NFL when the players think that they are acting in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick and protesting the cops. That's not what they were doing. They were inflicting damage on the NFL. And even before its feud over the national anthem with Trump, even before that, the NFL Players Association, it's a union, wasn't on the same political team as many of its fans, judging from its contributions to leftist. What is the Players Union doing donating money to leftist activist groups? Well, Rush, it's a union. They can donate to whoever. I understand that. It's not the Service Employees International Union we're talking about here. It's not the Teamsters. What in the world are players' money going to this stuff for? Tax documents released by Second Vote, that's a group, show that FOPA donated $5,000 in 2015 to the Center for Community Change Action, a group active in the anti-Trump resistance and bankrolled by a host of liberal foundations, including top Democratic donor George Soros's Foundation for Open Society. A member of the AFL-CIO, then FOPA also contributed in 2013 and 2015 to Working America, the AFL-CIO's community affiliate, which Open Secrets said spent $1 million in 2016 to defeat Trump. Then FOPA, long before this stuff even began, was being guided by George Soros and donating to uber-leftist causes. Now, let me tell you what this illustrates. I have mentioned to you John O'Sullivan, the former editor of National Review and a close confidant of Lady Margaret Thatcher. John O'Sullivan had when he called the first law. It's this. Any institution that is not explicitly conservative will become liberal over time. And it is dead on right. If on an organization of people, I don't care where it is, in the firehouse, in a radio or TV station, in any office building, if that group is not actively conservative, it will be subsumed by liberalism. Whether it wants to be or not, whether it's aware that it's happening or not. And all of this is happening, by the way, all of this left-wing activism of the Players Association was happening long before the coming of on Trump. And so Trump comes along and the anthem protest come along. I wonder what role George Soros and his buds had with this in the first place. Maybe. Kaepernick ended up providing a very convenient launch pad for what they intended to do anyway. But O'Sullivan's first law, any institution that's not explicitly and actively everyday right-wing will become left-wing over time. Now, this story, I don't know, the NFL Players Union teaming up with George Soros to fund leftist advocacy groups, if this becomes widely known, this is gonna push even more NFL fans to turn off the TV. This is not what they want to know. They don't want to look at a bunch of guys playing football on Sunday afternoon and see a bunch of activists supporting left-wing causes. That's not why they're watching. It's not what's gonna keep them glued to the TV screen. That's why we're only hearing about it now. The NFLPA, the players' union, not been bragging about this, they've not been public about it, but it's now been discovered by people that investigate various organizations, human rights, civil rights, whatever, and find out where their money goes, to whom it is being donated. I mean, we're talking left-wing activist union politics here. And football fans who are spending money one way or another in the NFL are indirectly funding this. And when they find out about it, they're not going to be happy. And then this, Ellicott City, Maryland, football's decline has some high schools disbanding teams. This is a long story pointing out the horrors of football. That's what this story is. It runs at the AP, Associated Press, and the story details all of the things that can happen to people who play football, all of the bad things, the brain injuries, the knee injuries, the getting beat up every day in practice, hanging around with a bunch of reprobate coaches making you do things that your body is not intended to do. That's what this story details. And then it explains after all of that why so many parents are not letting their kids play football, and then goes on to describe in detail the number of schools, middle schools and high schools that are disbanding football teams, which you're not hearing about much, but is happening. And if it keeps up, it's not a crisis point now, but if this keeps up, if they keep making movies about how football is deadly and leads to suicide, and if the sports drive-by media keeps harping on things like this and the reprobate tactics of the players and this kind of stuff, you're gonna have more and more parents keep their kids out of it. And then the feeder system dies. And that's as bad as advertisers pulling out. I mean, this is a long ways away, maybe, but this is how college football, the NFL, wither away. No players. Now, for many in America, professional sports, the NFL, the NBA, is a way out. It's a way out of the hood. It's a way out of poverty. It's a way out of hopelessness. What if these opportunities are removed? What if they're not there? This story is about high-income northeastern school districts, which are now considering canceling football programs because it's too dangerous, and even the kids are now slowly and surely becoming afraid to play the game because of what they're seeing and what they are reading. This problem has so many tentacles woven deeply into the fabric of the entire sport, and they are all serving to unravel the foundation for football. And it's happening right in front of our eyes. And the amazing thing is that the football industry seems to be helping it along by trying to buy goodwill with the people who are leveling all of this criticism at it. Back in 1994, the MLB decided it was a good idea to cancel the season and World Series because already overpaid players felt they weren't being paid enough. What ensued was a backlash like no one had ever seen before. Us fans boycotted baseball all the way up to after September 11, 2001. When we all saw how patriotic they were after the terrible attacks on our nation, we forgave and went back to watch because they were Americans, and sports has always been a great way to escape what was going on all around us. Especially in the months right after the attacks when everything was so uncertain. In fact, after the attacks the NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, and WWE had some of the biggest overnight ratings jump in history. Today all we patriotic Americans have left is WWE and NHL. Thank you for watching this video. What do you think about this? Share this on Facebook and Twitter along with your comments.